Welcome back to another episode of the Always Compete Seahawks podcast. My name is Sam. Thank you for joining me today. Today is my day three recap, and it was a much busier day for the Seahawks this time around. The Seahawks making a couple pretty notable moves alongside some other interesting reports and news that we heard from the day. So I think we should hop right in now. This is gonna be a pretty long episode. It's already pretty late, so let's just get right to it. We're going to start with the big news of the day for the Seahawks. The Seahawks have agreed to a 3-year deal worth up to $43 million with Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence. This deal with $18 million guaranteed, you could look at it either as essentially a 3-year deal. The base value is 33, incentives can carry it up to 43. But really, the way I'm looking at it, because of his age, he will be 33 in April. I'm looking at this realistically as a 2-year deal worth $18 million. Lawrence is a guy who made a lot of sense from the beginning. Seahawks had a lot of cap space, but seemingly did not have a lot of players to spend it on. Has consistently been one of the better run defending defensive ends in the NFL, who has some pass rushing upside, has been an elite player at times in his career, coming off a pretty big injury last year. I believe it was a Liz Frank injury, which I believe is a bone or a tendon in your foot that he ultimately ended up tearing. Coming off a big injury, his price was pretty deflated. But ultimately, I think if he played a full season last year, we're probably talking about a guy that gets paid pretty serious cash. I think the Seahawks did a good job of going in and swooping that up. I think the reason why a lot of people thought this made sense is because Adam Dirty, the defensive coordinator, was the defensive line coach for the 3 years that DeMarcus Lawrence had pretty much the three best years of his career. Obviously, a clear connection there. And I think Lawrence would overall enjoy going and playing for a team that where, hey, like former defensive line coach is there, who's now the defensive coordinator. Had his best years for this defensive coordinator and also playing for a defensive head coach. I bet he probably likes the vision of this defense and he thinks he can probably succeed in it. So ultimately, I really like this signing. A lot of people freaked out when they saw the initial report, which was almost a guaranteed reported by his agent that said, "Hey, this is a 3-year deal worth $43 million. It's worth up to 43. The base value is 33, but I doubt that we will see the deal reach 3 years. Overall, $18 million guaranteed for this type of deal is pretty good. I think Lawrence offers a ton of upside, has great depth, especially on early downs. With the Seahawks losing Roy Robertson Harris and Draymond Jones, they were kind of missing bigger ends to step in, play a little bit of three tech perhaps, or kind of just general edge and set the edge. Roy Robertson Harris and Draymond Jones both released. Both have since signed. Draymond Jones actually signed with the Titans today. So that role would need to be filled. I also think it's pretty safe to say that this takes edge off the board in the draft, which I thought was something that the Seahawks could realistically do. John Schneider likes edge rushers, so does Mike McDonald. I thought maybe with a weak draft class, they would have just taken best available, and there are a lot of edges kind of in their zone. Kind of gives me hope maybe the numbers are dwindling to the point where they'll have to pick a offensive lineman, but I'm not going to put that past John to not do that. Overall, really like the DeMarcus Lawrence move. I think it really improves this defensive line. You can never have too many good edge rushers. For a cheap guy who's clearly going to be a leader, has a great reputation in Dallas. Really like this move. Low risk, very high reward type of signing for the Seahawks here. The other signing that the Seahawks made, which was the earlier move, was actually a move that I predicted could very well happen, and that was Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the New Orleans Saints this year. Also has played for the Chiefs, the Bills, the Packers. He ended up signing a 1-year deal worth up to $5.5 million to play wide receiver for us. A move that I thought made a lot of sense very early on when I was doing my kind of free agency breakdown, and I did position by position of what I thought could be big needs. This is obviously before DK and Gino would both be off the team, which I none of us expected. I said Marcus Valdes-Scantling made a lot of sense as a cost-controlled option, a guy who really fit with what Clint Kubiak did last year, offers a lot of speed, really kind of seemed to unlock himself in like only like 8 games played with Clint Kubiak last year. Overall, Valdez Scantling, I love this move as well. Kind of a low upside, very good get at wide receiver. I mean, a low upside, high upside, low, a kind of high floor type of player where, at worst, he's going to give you a deep threat downfield. At best, he's a pretty reliable number two next to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think either way, we're talking about a pretty successful signing here, and it's a 1 year deal. It's probably the base value is somewhere in the threes with incentives that could take it up to five. I think he really worked well with Clint Kubiak last year. Kind of played a Rashid Shaheed role, which will kind of tell you the role that he'll probably play here. Kind of a deep threat type of player. You have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is the slot guy. That's kind of one of the reasons why I don't really see us signing Cooper Kupp, even though there's been some rumors about that. I think both of them are pretty successful in the slot. That's where they succeed. I would be surprised if they bring Cooper Kupp in and have him or Jackson Smith and Jigba not play in the slot. I think that's both of their spots. I don't see why they would force that necessarily. But all in all, we've had the DK Metcalf kind of deep threat role filled out. We've have the slot guy. I think now you're probably looking at someone in the draft who can fill the Tyler Lockett role of being kind of a safe target, kind of intermediate type of guy, kind of button hook route runner, if you will. But all in all, two signings today that I really like. Um, I mean, if we had a guard, I would feel great about this offseason, but we don't. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about next. The Seahawks got some more news on perhaps why they did not get Will Fries. Yesterday, Corbin Smith had a report that I did tell you guys, hey, I would probably not trust this blindly. Corbin Smith has had some bad reports this offseason, and Corbin reported that the Seahawks just weren't willing to match the years, weren't willing to match the money to get Will Fries. Bob Condata had a report today that essentially said, hey, that's not true. The Seahawks' years and money were not a problem. Fries was down with it, apparently. Fries and his agent were down with it. And they said, well, we want you in for a visit. You broke your leg last year. You only played 5 games. Can we see how you're recovering? Can we see how your body's rehabbing? Can we see what shape you're in? And Fry said no, and he signed with the Vikings. Throws up a red flag for me, I think, for sure. The fact that he wasn't willing to wait 24 hours. If he really wanted to play here, he would take the visit. But, all in all, it's kind of suspect for Minnesota, I would say. I would not be too thrilled to hear that report if I was a Minnesota fan. Like, why wouldn't he want to take a visit with the team? Maybe would have thrown up some medical red flags that would have thrown the Seahawks off. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate that much, but all in all, I mean, I was kind of right. Like, you can't. Corbin Smith, man, he's had some rough reports this offseason. Just kind of like he's saying a lot of stuff that has not been coming true, like at all. If I really see anything from him, like the Seahawks are interested in taking a quarterback in the first round, like if he drops a report like that or something like that, not gonna buy it. Not gonna buy anything that he says anymore because he's kind of when you have one bad report. All right, whatever. Everybody has one bad report that they miss on. You got two bad reports that you're walking around and claiming like, "Hey, man, I have my sources. These are my sources. I believe my sources," and you miss on both of those. It's pretty bad. So ultimately, that's kind of the breakdown of why the Seahawks didn't get Will Fries. If that's the reason, I can't really be mad at John Schneider. Like he put the money on the table. If you put the money on the table for a player, you want to make sure he's in good shape if he's coming off a broken leg. I think all in all, if Will Fries wasn't willing to meet and wanted to sign with Minnesota because didn't want to take a freaking physical, all right, whatever. I mean, it sucks, but at the same time, like I don't blame him for wanting to be 100% sure that you're getting a guy who's physically ready to go day one, especially if you're going to be paying him a lot of money over 4 to 5 years. So, in general, hey, if he didn't want to play on that contract, or if he didn't want to play, if you want to get a physical to get that contract, whatever. Kevin Zeitler did come off the board as well today, and it's also worth noting that Brady Henderson, no, it was Bob Condata who also said, hey, don't hold your breath on Tevin Jenkins or Mekhi Becton. Brian Nemhauser, Hawk Blocker, said today that he's heard buzz that the Seahawks don't have Mekhi Becton on their board. Or at least he did say he wasn't reporting anything, so I will say he's not reporting anything. It's not like he's like claiming this to be true, but this is just an aggregation of everything he's heard from people that know things. That the Seahawks don't see Mekhi Becton as an option, and they also think there's also this kind of narrative around the league that Tevin Jenkins, who I like as a player, I think fits well as a left guard, which is what this team really, really needs. there's a narrative around Tevin Jenkins that he's not tough and he sits out a lot of games with injuries that most players would play with. So I guess both those guys are off the board, and Kevin Zeitler came off the board today, which essentially means like, hey, the quality guards are gone. Like you're not getting any of them. So now I wonder if John Schneider is throwing all his eggs in the basket of the draft, in which case maybe you're sitting there and saying, hey, maybe he will take a Gray Zabel or a Kelvin Banks or someone like that in the first round. But I don't know. John Schneider's history would make me believe otherwise. So it's a very tedious situation with the offensive line. And like I said, the Seahawks, like with DeMarcus Lawrence, Sam Darnold, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, all these trades for draft picks, this is a pretty good offseason so far. I like all the moves that we've made. If we don't get an offensive lineman that like really is willing, like really I feel could make a difference. Like I don't want to see us go out and sign some bum ass offensive lineman. Then I'm like, oh, so it's just another Laken Tomlinson. I want someone who's going to make a difference. If I leave this off season, especially this free agency period, without a player that I feel makes a difference, I can't give this off season more than a C plus. Just kind of the way it is. So we'll see how that develops. As far as everything else, don't think there were any interesting reports. Oh yeah, there were a couple. The Seahawks are gonna have a couple visits. Marquise Bell, the safety from the Cleveland Browns, young guy, did not get tendered. Safety who's played a little bit of time, but he seems more like a special teamer. And the Seahawks will also be meeting with Julius Chestnut, who is also a special teamer from the Titans, kind of a running back, kick returner type. Seems like the Seahawks are putting much more emphasis on getting those kind of core special teamers more than they did last year, and we saw how that paid out. We saw their special teams really collapse at points during the year. Seems like they are putting more of an emphasis on going out and kind of adding to that group. And also, speaking of restricted free agents, the Seahawks did not tender Cody White, which was kind of a surprise to me. The other three make sense, like Jalen Darden, Josh Onajogu, friend of the show, Josh Onajogu. So sucks to see that. But Josh Onajogu, Josh Ross, all guys that kind of, all right, maybe they'll bring them back. But I was pretty surprised to see Kobe White wasn't tendered, a guy who played a little bit last year on special teams, played a little bit at receiver. I kind of liked what I saw in very limited snaps. I was kind of surprised he wasn't tendered, so we'll see where that goes there. He was expected to maybe fight to be a contributor in this receiver room that's very empty all of a sudden. So we'll see what happens there. And as for the rest, I don't really think there's much to talk about. So yeah, I mean, that's where things stand right now. DeMarcus Lawrence, great ad. Marcus Valdez Scantling, good ad. Couple rumors circling about us visits, maybe bring in some guys. John Schneider trying to get offensive line, but just doesn't like anyone at this point. So we'll see where everything goes. It's gonna be an interesting next couple days. Hopefully, we will get news on a guard. Hopefully, we'll get news on a guard in the next couple days, and we'll see how everything develops from there. But I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on the moves today in the comments below, especially DeMarcus Lawrence, kind of a polarizing move. A lot of people saying he's aging, he's kind of washed. I don't think he's washed at all. I think he's just coming off injury. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for part 4 of 5, I guess, of the daily free agency journal. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.